This is episode 549. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does episode 549 mean? Well, those who are listening, use your own intellect as to what does episode 549 mean on the 27th of July 2022, which means this talk show has come a long way. We'll talk about that later, but let's talk about something very interesting, a term which everyone loves, a term which is not only denigrating but insulting, especially to athletes. With the India West Indies Game 3, with the series 2-0, the question is, will more Fringe players get the spotlight after what happened in the first two games, where one can say after the fact, in the hindsight, that India deserved to win none of the games, with relatively inexperienced players both in the batting and the bowling side of things, with only one player having played over 100 matches and the next best having played around 40 matches. The team did not have the capacity to win, but they did it, and we have seen that so many times. And that is why I do not like the term fringe. No player is a fringe, no one is above anyone, no one is below anyone. Though let me tell you, when I hear former players turn commentators or individuals who don't deserve to be commentators become commentators, and they keep on saying, oh, the West Indies team of 70s and 80s, they were so strong, they had the batters, they had the bowlers, they had the all-rounders. Let me tell you, they were not strong. The only reason a West Indies team won in the initial part was not because they were strong, but because they were intimidating. They didn't have the skills or the batters or the bowlers or any of it that is required for the sport. They had over 7-foot-inch bowlers who would stare at you. The batter not wearing a helmet during that period. Why? I don't know. I don't agree with that. And why were batters and anyone involved in the game not wearing a helmet? What were you trying to prove by not wearing a helmet? Because nobody wore a helmet while driving a motorcycle. They thought wearing a helmet impedes the driving, and now you cannot do anything without a helmet. So it's just how things carry on. If you don't wear a helmet while driving a motorcycle, you're not afraid to fall, then why will you wear a helmet while playing the match? So no helmet, a hard ball coming at you, presume it's 150 kilometers per hour, because it's being driven by a guy who's 7 feet tall, over 200 pounds, you will be intimidated. And then when the players in those times, when they reiterate, oh, those players would come and intimidate us and we would be afraid and we would lose games. Well, I don't believe half the things they said. I was not there to document it, so I don't believe a word that the teams were strong. In fact, no team is strong. The strong is perception. We keep on saying the current West Indies team is weak because they don't have the names. Do we really need the names? Do really name of a player make a difference? Does a name like Kyle Mayers, whose fault is it? The parents' fault that a name like Clive Lloyd had a better ring to it, but a player like Kyle Mayers doesn't feel like a player? I mean, such idiotic and nonsensical discussions take place. We look at the current West Indies team and say they don't have it. They don't have the bowlers. Their bowlers are not 7 feet, not 200 pounds, not bowling at 150. And then how the sport has changed. Let me tell you, the sport has not changed. Cricket is all about batting and bowling 4s, 6s, wickets. If the ball is to be hit, the ball will be hit. You can't start hitting from ball 1. Even if you try, it doesn't work. So as I said, the West Indies team were not that strong. It was a matter of perception, and because the media didn't have too much information on such things, they intimidated everyone. They still do it. They're still lost in that era I would not be afraid of that era. Yes, the ball hits you, you do suffer, but then why weren't they wearing a helmet? I don't know. What was the reason not to wear a helmet? Whatever it had to be a very dumb reason. So I don't believe in that. But now the spotlight is on the fringe players. But I do not agree with the term fringe. No one is above anyone, no one is below anyone. If a few players are not there, doesn't mean that without them the team cannot do well. It happens in hockey, it happens in football. You can't have players all the time. Interestingly, I heard a former player turned commentator who's been doing this for the past 3 decades, out of which 8 years was spent being a coach of the team. He said a very interesting and yet a very juvenile thing, that nowadays players don't bond because the teams change. The same players are not there. But in our era, we had the same players all the time. It basically, there are two things to it. Right now, you have so many players that so many players get chances. And if it's become professional, you get a decent paycheck. Even if the bonding is not there, it doesn't matter. 40 years ago, if the bonding was there, which was good, but there was another thing to it. There were other sports which the players wanted to play. So how do you look at it? Just because you shared a room, it made you get more close. Well, that is something I'm not going to fall for. And that is a question which has come too late. Who cares about bonding? There is no bonding in teams. There is no I in team. There is no me in team. Everyone is on their own. They play because they have to play. They get a paycheck. There are no partnerships. There are no friendships. Friendship is only for the sake of making sure that you win and you get a decent paycheck. But everyone is on their own. So I don't agree with this discussion that 30, 40, 50 years ago everyone used to come together and be happy and bond, and nowadays players can't bond. They're stuck on their own pseudo media. They waste time on Twitter and Insta, whatever, and face full of crap book. They spend time on all that pseudo media nonsense. Well, let them spend time on pseudo media nonsense. No one cares. Because you want them to spend time on pseudo media nonsense, because broadcasters dedicate at least 5 to 10 minutes on what the players are doing. They want to know what is happening in their personal lives. On one hand, we are very fidgety about right to privacy. On the other hand, we feel left out, FOMO, or whatever you want to call it, that sports athletes don't share the most intimate detail. If they don't share, we say, why are they not sharing? You receive a huge paycheck which comes out of taxpayers' money. You have to share everything. On the other hand, if they do share everything, and if something is taken in the wrong manner, then we say, look, players share everything, we don't want to know everything. Players show their lighter side of things. They're enjoying themselves. They're in the pool. If they're in the pool, then we have a group of former jealous commentators, former players turned commentators who were anyways jealous. We didn't get to spend time in the pool. There were no pools when we were there. There were limited access to pools, and now they're all spending time in swimming pools. They all have their own suites. Well, it's a question. If you're jealous, it's not my headache. If you're jealous, then don't be a commentator. And if you want to be a commentator, remove the jealousy factor. You played in some era, forget it. It doesn't matter what you did, what you didn't do. You should just concentrate on what is happening. Stop saying, in my times, things were so good. We had more options. We had more all-rounders. We had this, we had that. We had player bonding. The scheduling wasn't so intimidating, or players didn't think of retiring from one format. There were only 2 formats and they were played, and there was a considerable gap between this. It doesn't matter. No one cares. But the spotlight once again is on the players. What will the team do with the series? One, will they give other players a chance, whoever is left? Well, if they want to, they should. As I said, there is no fixed team. It's not possible. If there's a fixed team, people still have a problem. If the team changes, people still have a problem. So I don't know what is perfect. There is no perfection. There is no perfect game. There is no perfect sport. Every sport has its flaws, and cricket has the most flaws because the rules of cricket are so bizarre, so obscure that the match officials, the umpires are able to find a loophole, and yet the umpires on the ground are they are the individuals who don't have any authority. They're just there, but they don't have any authority to control the game. But we'll talk about that later. Once again, another term that has been created over the past 2 to 3 decades is competition for places. I don't agree with that. That for this player, there is this player waiting. So if X doesn't do well, Y will do well. And if Y does Y well, then X may not get a chance. And then X and Y compete for the same place. For me, even the term competition, I do not agree with the term competition in sports and cutthroat competition in general. I'll talk about that once we get to the latter half of this episode. But there is no competition. Those who get a chance, they should do what they are supposed to do the job. They should not think that I will be taken out if this player is in the team or if he or she replaces me. When you can only have 11 players, who should play, who should not play is a matter of perception, is a matter of what happens on that day. So I don't think such discussions matter, and all this competition for places is created by the PPED media. They have nothing to add. Their content is so poor. They don't have individuals who can write decent content, that they have to use words like fringe, spotlights, the good old eras. That is something that is nonsensical. And of course, this competition for places, creating a frenzy and creating controversy. Let me tell you, they have no right to be the judge. Who should be in, who should be out, what style suits whom, it's irrelevant. Whether a player scored a strike rate of 80 or whether in the next game he's scoring at a strike rate of 150, leave it to the player. Leave it to the player to play in their own style. And that is something that has to be taken into consideration. Moving on, 2 months remain for the 20 over World Cup. It's time for the Grand Slam situation. Which team will win which team will win this World Cup? Well, let me tell you, there will be a new champion, which means last year's champion Australia may not win again. That chance is 75-25. New champion means India could win again. Our neighboring countries in Bangladesh, Afghanistan looking for their first title. Bangladesh, Afghanistan have a chance, though no one will take that seriously if I say Bangladesh and Afghanistan have a chance. But I would put them in that category. New Zealand came close, so they have a chance. South Africa has done well. They're once again in that spotlight. England will want to also win its second 20 over World Cup. West Indies looking for its third 20 over World Cup. Sri Lanka looking for its second 20 over World Cup. And then you have the associate and the periphery nations, which no one cares about. I'll talk about them later. So yes, could there be a new champion who were former champions? Yes. Could there be fresh champions? That is somewhere between South Africa, New Zealand, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. Yes. Or could there be former champions becoming champions again? That is Australia, possibly. England, yes. Sri Lanka, why not? West Indies, definitely. A neighboring country, yes. On the west, possible. So both options are open. So which team will have a Grand Slam movement? It remains to be seen. Talking about the 20 over tournaments, the women's T20 tournament, which was added belatedly to the Commonwealth Games, whose relevance is questioned because it's former colonies coming together. The fact that we have this tournament which means that we agree that we are still colonies. Why don't teams? But Commonwealth Games are slightly easier in terms of competition or in terms of players involved, so don't be surprised if gold medals after gold medals are won by India. Olympics, they find it difficult because you have teams from more countries. This is a limited tournament, and also history, the jingoism becomes a part of this. The pseudo nationalism through ads that is being portrayed also add to the fervor of this tournament, and the fact that tournament is being held in Birmingham and all the past associated with it doesn't surprise me. But the women's T20 tournament, I'm not surprised that it was the women's team which was sent to the T20 tournament. The men's team were not even given the opportunity to do that. On one hand, they say play less of bilateral series. On the other hand, we only send the women's team to the T20 Commonwealth Games tournament. I'm not surprised. This is simply because we don't take the women's division in cricket seriously. The only place where we take the women's division seriously is, let's say, in badminton, a bit of tennis, and then wrestling and boxing. That's it. No other sport do we take the women's division seriously. And here you have the women's T20 tournament, the women's hockey tournament, and of course other sports.
It's not.
So how will the women's team do in this tournament? Australia, South Africa, Jamaica or Barbados are one of the teams going. There's no West Indies team, but there's Barbados, who they're all independent nations, but they're all participating. I think it's time to change the name Commonwealth Games, as I said in my last episode. Just give it anything. Just change the name. Don't make sure that the tournament doesn't have any remnant of the colonial thing. Because if we are going with that, then you're accepting it. Then we're accepting the fact that we are not independent nations. But if we remove the term and just see it as another tournament, another semi-Olympics or minor Olympics, this could have easily been called Olympics, minor Olympics or something. But then even the Olympics is a waste of time. This is just an option for players to come together, play for 15 days, enjoy themselves. If they win, well and good. If they don't win, well, we tried. So in the women's T20 tournament, you have teams like South Africa and England and Australia and our neighboring countries and Jamaica or Barbados, one of the teams. How will they do well? The jingoism has already started. The India-Australia match is tomorrow, and then we play our neighboring country on Sunday, for whom the jingoism, the pseudo ads, and all those things have already started for the past couple of weeks. Well, it's a 20-over tournament, so you don't have to use your intellect much. But let's move on. As I said, we are getting closer. What are we getting closer to? And I did say I'll talk about something as we proceeded into this major talk show, into the best talk show in the world. No other talk show comes near it. In fact, there may or may not be competition for places in team sports, but there is no competition to this talk show. No one comes near it. No one will ever come near it. In fact, I don't recall any other talk show having come so close, being so consistent, and I'll say that no one has done it and no one will be able to do it. And that is why, with T-1 episodes remaining, this is the GOAT of all talk shows. Remember, next episode is a very special episode, an episode which comes once in 4 months, once every 50 episodes. And things will change as this talk show progresses. So just wait for that change. What will be that change? Well, you will find out if you are smart enough. You will find out if you are not smart. Well, add some smartness to that empty box upstairs. But we are getting closer. We are one episode away from another milestone episode. So So this ends episode number 549. What does it mean? This ends episode number 549, which means we are ready for episode number 550 on the 29th of July 2022. Once again, a reminder to all those who have an empty CPU. We are ready with episode number 550 on the 29th of July 2022. So don't forget to tune in. And if you do forget to tune in, then you have an empty box in your CPU and you better fry it. If you can't watch this episode, then you don't need your CPU. Better fry that thing.